There's never been a more critical time. Fox News Media brings America together. America is watching. News and fearless debate. We're invested in you. From Wall Street to Main Street.
Fox News. Whether it be on TV or social media, it's likely that you have been exposed to the outlet. The network is a megalith of modern American media whose viewership, according to findings from the Pew Research Center, consists mainly of older, white, conservative adults. The Pew Research Center also found that the average viewer is further to the right of the political spectrum than most Americans, but not as far right as the viewers of outlets such as the Daily Caller or Breitbart. In 2003, Robert L. Bartley, then editor of the Wall Street Journal, claimed that Fox News provides a meaningful alternative to the left establishment slant of the major networks, and that the channel is no more tilted right than theirs is tilted to the left. However, as time progressed and the channel's influence increased, Bartley's statement was challenged. In a paper titled Fox News and the Performance of Ideology, researcher Jeffrey Jones blatantly disagrees. Jones explains that Fox News offers a conservative ideological voice under the heading of news. Jonathan S. Morris attributes this rationale to the gratification theory, which is similar to an echo chamber in claiming that people feel gratified if the media reinforces what they already know and believe. This is made clear from the vantage points of infamous pundits Rush Limbaugh, Tucker Carlson, Bill O'Reilly, and Donald Trump, who we will discuss later on. It is also important to note its shocking popularity in America. As of 2020, Fox News had become the highest rated television channel in the primetime hours of 8 to 11 p.m. of not just news networks, but all of television. According to Jonathan Morris's paper, The Fox News Factor, even back in 2003, Fox News had effectively brought prominence to a new sort of TV journalism that casts aside traditional notions of objectivity, holds contempt for dissent, and eschews the skepticism of government as mainstream journalism's core, thus widening the door for far-right thought and conspiratorial drivel alike. In the early 1990s, Roger Ailes struggled to find success in television programming. Ailes had a long history with the Republican Party, being a media consultant to many Republican presidents such as Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, and George Bush. He emboldened his name in Washington by helping former presidents' campaigns on television, usually through negative smears against Democratic rivals. The Fox News Channel was launched in 1996 by Robert Murdoch with guidance and support from Ailes, who became the president of the network. It gained success by utilizing star power with notorious broadcasters, talk radio, and tabloid television personalities, along with conservative ideology and the correct format for attracting audiences through television news. Within a decade of its inception, Fox News rose above cable news competitors, receiving higher ratings, more profits, and larger views. Viewership significantly increased following the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. This trend has sustained over the past 2 decades, as Fox has remained the most watched cable news channel year after year by, quote, presenting politically biased news and opinion while also branding itself with slogans such as fair and balanced and we report, you decide. Although many networks have previously tried and failed to create conservative television news, Fox was launched at the perfect time to capture American viewers. Reese Peck, a Fox News research expert, outlines 3 societal advancements which laid the conditions for the emergence of Fox News. First, recent technological advancements of the 1990s created a rise in cable and satellite television, giving millions of Americans access to television channels and networks. Additionally, with these TVs becoming mainstream in American households, there was a rise in demand for niche markets catered to individual interests and views. Second, in the 1990s, It ushered in a period of polarization and the revival of partisan identification in the United States. Finally, the tabloidization of journalism led to more entertainment-based news and media. Some scholars view Fox News' segments as a cover for ideological-based propaganda used to shape viewers' political thoughts and opinions. Fox News is thus granted an authoritarian voice and access to political players, which allows them the ability to craft political reality and structure audience receptivity to its messages. The news genre also provides believability to Fox opinions and the perception of truth in their messages. Thus, Fox News was created to mirror the beliefs and ideas of their viewers, rather than to report and cover stories accurately. The channel provides an ideological conservative bias across the entirety of its program to draw in right-wing audiences. Notable commentators who helped usher in and maintain these audiences included 2008 vice presidential nominee Sarah Palin, former Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich, 2008 and 2016 presidential contender Mike Huckabee, and 2012 and 2016 presidential contender Rick Santorum. Moreover, the media outlet became closely intertwined with the political right when Donald Trump arrived on the political scene. Trump's emergence to the political realm consequently saw the surfacing of popular opinion segments, such as Tucker Carlson Tonight and The Ingraham Angle. These shows saw their popularities rise as they promoted and reinforced the views of the former president. Over the past 2.5 decades, Fox News has been a catalyst for mainstreaming far-right ideologies. One characteristic of the far right is the opposition to immigration with the desire for a monocultural state. In several instances, Fox has tolerated and advanced xenophobic rhetoric. For example, in a reaction to illegal immigration and voting rights issues, Tucker Carlson stated, "If you change the population, you dilute your political power of the people who live there. So every time they import a new voter, I become disenfranchised as a current voter." This remark can easily be interpreted as Carlson inferring that immigrants are a threat to conservative voters as they strip them of their electoral power. Far-right organizations also use immigration and so-called aliens as scapegoats for increases in crime. These organizations push out propaganda that use rhetoric such as immigrant crime to promote a notion that immigrants are harming our societies. On the topic of border security, Fox News released an article titled "Arrests of Criminal Migrants, Including Convictions for Sex, Drug, and Homicide Crimes," up in 2021. While this title exemplifies Fox News utilizing far-right rhetoric, it is also extremely misleading. The title highlights sex, drug, and homicide crimes, which are viewed as more aggressive than other crimes. However, the article states that the top criminal conviction is illegal re-entry, for which there were 3,836 convictions. Through the wording of the title, it appears that Fox News is trying to promote the idea that immigrants are aggressive criminals, when in reality the top crime listed is nonviolent. Another theme in far-right organizations is an opposition to corrupt elites, which is the epitome of populism. For Fox News, the elitist class that they focus on mostly targets Democrat elites. On her show, The Ingraham Angle, Ingraham did a segment in response to COVID-19 masks and vaccine mandates. In the segment, she stated, "It's obvious that most of our elites prefer China's system of government, where dissenters are easily silenced. Population control, lockdowns, mask surveillance, propaganda in schools. The elites really aren't bothered by any of that, as long as they keep their professional purchase and money flowing." Through this quote, she likens the country's political elites to communist China in an attempt to rally viewers against the corrupt elites. The main catalyst for Fox News and the mainstreaming of the far right was Donald Trump. The strength of their alliance is perhaps the most ever between a president and a media outlet in a so-called liberal democracy. In 2011, Trump was doing so many interviews over the phone with Fox and Friends that he was given his own segment on the show called Mondays with Trump. Then once he did run for president, executives at Fox were quick to pounce. It has been confirmed by various sources that Trump spent significant portions of his day at the White House watching talk shows on the news network, and it's even reported that he considered personalities on these shows to be his friends. This comes as no surprise, because once Trump was in office, the real integration of the White House and Fox News began, with Trump appointing, among others, the former Fox contributor Ben Carson to be his Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, the former Fox commentator John Bolton to be his National Security Advisor, and the former Fox commentator K.T. McFarland to be his Deputy National Security Advisor. Not to leave out Bill Shine, who was former co-president of Fox News and made Deputy Chief of Staff for Trump at the White House, or Sean Hannity, who White House advisors nicknamed the Shadow Chief of Staff due to the constant rapport between Hannity and Trump on policy issues and more. The door swung both ways, though. Certain employees leaving the White House would appear on Fox News shortly after. This revolving door situation was only the tip of the iceberg. In many ways, Trump and Fox News wielded each other for their own agendas. Trump's was obviously political, and Fox's were ratings and ultimately profit. Clarifications aside, what quickly started to take shape between the two parties was something Matthew Gertz, a senior fellow at the progressive media watchdog Media Matters for America, called a mutually beneficial feedback loop. Trump has the power, but Fox News has a lot of influence over what he does with it. Trump's mainstreaming of the far-right viewpoints and policy is observable in his foreign policy with China, his immigration policy, and the World Health Organization and its handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. All of this was made especially possible through Fox News' nearly unwavering, supportive and incendiary coverage of them. Through Trump's ability to mainstream his viewpoints, he connected with and encouraged those who harbored similar views. Trump's online and offline hate speech corresponded with his followers' aggressive rhetoric, violent threats, and actual violence against Trump's declared enemies, most of all minorities, the news media, and oppositional politicians. Fox News and other far-right organizations, such as One America News Network, are often referred to as Trump's propagandists, and rightly so. These organizations legitimized Trump and therefore gave legitimacy to whatever vitriol he was inclined to spew at any given moment. A portion of the population which had been unwilling or unsure of voicing their extreme political or personal views suddenly had been given a voice. To see someone in the highest position of power in the U.S. use hateful, racist, and sexist rhetoric so flippantly emboldened them, and consequently endangered large portions of the American public. Donald Trump pushed an inherently harmful and blatantly far-right agenda, one that unwittingly befell the American people before most knew it was happening. This manipulation of the public likely would have failed had it not been for Fox's role in facilitating Trump's disinformation, and the role of national media outlets in American politics has been forever changed because of it. All of this and more culminated on January 6th when a group of insurrectionists occupied the U.S. Capitol. Essentially, Donald J. Trump inspired a band of his militant extreme right, led by the Proud Boys, to contest the election he fairly lost. The slogan behind the insurrection was "Stop the Steal." Professor Robert Tynes claims that the rioters sought to reinstate their vision of democracy, which was in fact a populist fantasy, a delusional narrative manufactured by the tweets of Donald Trump on Twitter and the lies of Tucker Carlson on Fox News. After the fact, Tucker Carlson attempted to rationalize the event in any way possible, stating that the U.S. Capitol is a public building that the citizens are allowed access to, that the insurrectionists don't look like terrorists, they look like tourists, and that the shame in America laid in the fact that the, quote, dissenters were locked up rather than that they attempted a coup. With all of this in mind, it is important to recognize Fox News' relationship with the far right for what it is. The most watched news network in America that originally intended on giving conservatives a platform, yet, in parallel to Donald Trump's political rise, became the launch pad for the mainstreaming of far-right thought in American political discourse.